in the mist, you gon' be soaked. So listen up, cause this hair of the dog, what's real, what ain't? Is this the fog or smog? Cause there's a difference when you breathe it in. So don't let the corporate media take you for a spin. This that morning show, they put you in the know. So I hope that you ready, cause all we do is go, go, go. Yeah, come get your info, you gon' like, whoa. Hair of the dog, we bout that, ayy. We in the zone, we out here, yeah. Speeding the fact.
Neo-Citizens is launching something truly special. They are building a global community for progressives. We know that being a progressive isn't about where you come from, but where your heart is. We seek truth and make decisions based on empathy, science, and a deeper economic understanding that prioritizes investment in people and our planet. We know that together we can create a better future for everyone, and now you can be a part of history in the making. Neo-Citizens has launched a groundbreaking new project. Trump's Wall of Shame joins voices from across the globe to demonstrate that we are truly in this together. He couldn't build his wall of hate, but we can build our wall and help leading progressive causes too. Digital Liberation Front is proud to partner with Neo-Citizens, recognized for our commitment to progressive ideals of independent journalism, dispelling misinformation, and for living the message as the nation's first employee-owned, all-union media company. Join us and help build this wall.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining the show this morning. I would normally say good morning and be really cheery. Not today. We need to have some serious conversations about how things are going down in the country and how we as progressives are responding to it, because I feel like we're giving each other too much of a pass at what's going on and not looking internally, looking in the mirror at our own behavior. So I recall, I forget the gentleman's name, but he won an essay back in the late 1800s, early 1900s. The essay was called "What's Wrong with the World Today?" And he won the essay with a 2-word response, which was, "I am." And so today we're going to look at where we are in this grand scheme of things. I am so tired of watching people point fingers at other people. We know that the RNC convention is going on this week, and I'm watching the left gleefully point fingers at the RNC and how ridiculous they are, and ignoring what's going on the left at the same time. So today we're going to do that in the context of what's going on in Kenosha and broadening that out into the rest of the country and how we are responding to things and what we as progressives need to do to step up and be responsible for how we conduct ourselves, our policy, and the way that we report things. So with that said, I'd like to toss it over to Andy Kennedy, my lovely and talented co-host. Morning, Andy.
Good morning, Carrie. It's nice to be back. Having a nice opportunity to go up to a cottage in northern central Ontario, I guess, for lack of a better term, considering the size of Ontario, but just to kind of unplug for a little bit. And my wife and I had a really nice, relaxing few days to celebrate our 25th wedding anniversary. You know, we were a little worried about what we were going to do because of the pandemic, and we're looking forward to 2020 coming up before it actually arrived, because there was a number of milestones in that year with our anniversary. And my wife and I both turned 55, and our daughter turning 21, and my mother turning 80, and just pretty much took care of all the surprise parties. But it was just a really nice thing to go and do. Our daughter and his boyfriend joined us on the Friday and stayed till the Sunday morning, and just a little bit of recharging. Now my mother is actually coming to visit here at my house. She lives just outside of Ottawa, which is the capital of Canada, more in eastern Ontario. She's about 3.5 hour drive. I haven't seen her since Christmas. My mother has the senior's version of leukemia, and so because of chemo and the therapy she has to endure, she can't have any visitors currently, and so that's been a tough one to try to deal with, not being able to see my mother. My mother and I get along really amazingly well, and I miss her terribly. But she's actually doing quite well right now, and her birthday, her 80th, is on the 8th of September, so she is going to make the drive here, and my wife and I are going to get COVID tests on Thursday afternoon, so when she arrives on Saturday, we'll be, after we get our tests done, Deb's off on Friday, so the two of us are coming here, and we're not leaving, until Mom goes home, so we can pretty much assure her that we're COVID free, and so that allows her to come for a visit, and I'm really excited about it. I'm thrilled that she's going to be able to do that. Really miss my mother, It's been, almost 9 months since I've seen her, so that's looking forward to, anyways. Catching up on my situation, so looking forward to that.
Well, I'm sorry about your mom and the diagnosis. It feels like not to diminish your family's hardship here, but I feel like we're all going through that. And as you know, my aunt through marriage, she's 72 and she was diagnosed with COVID. She's also diabetic, and because of that, the nursing home that she contracted the virus while she was in there has moved her to her sister's sofa to die quietly. So they handed her sister the number for hospice and said good luck. And I can't help but feel like, because she's a 72-year-old diabetic black woman, that was the choice that she made, that was made on her behalf. Because she happens to live in Dayton, Ohio, which is the national headquarters of the Ku Klux Klan. And we've seen multiple...
Delightful.
Yeah. And it's one of the most segregated cities I think I've ever seen, not just economically, but by plan and practice. So it's... Yeah, so that, to me, going through that and then watching what's happening in Kenosha was very telling. So one of the stories that I wanted to tell about, and I think this relates to Kenosha, and for me, this is my pushback on particularly progressives who are saying looting is not the answer. Andy and I have talked about the economic stimulus that actually can occur during looting, and what I keep seeing over and over is white people in particular whitewashing MLK. So we had that wonderful interview with Frank Ryder, who has the book out, talking about the unvarnished truth of what was going on during the civil rights movement in 1965 and years following, and how we as white people like to whitewash everything and diminish what was actually happening, and how much they hated MLK until he was dead. And then they could take all of his words and just diminish it all. And that's what we're still seeing. So one of the stories that happened while I lived in Dayton, Ohio, there was an episode with a bus driver, a white bus driver, in a very busy street. If you know Dayton, it's Philadelphia. And what they did was they consolidated, always they're cutting schools and funding and things like this. So they cut back bus services so that little kids, kindergartners, had to ride with bigger kids, and they cut the routes. So this particular bus driver had been warned several times about the routes that they were driving, that they needed to watch out for these little kids. Well, this bus driver, for whatever reason, decided not to, and they dropped off a 5-year-old on the side of the road, a busy, very busy 2 lanes on either side, 4-lane road, very busy, and expected this 5-year-old by himself to cross this street to get to his after-school care. And this little boy was almost hit by a car twice. And when his mother found out, she was obviously incensed, and she went down to the bus depot where all of the bus drivers were getting their orders and their assignments, and she went down there with a baseball bat. And I remember as a parent and talking to other parents, because my son went to the same daycare, we all went, yeah, we get it. Absolutely. If I am on the jury of this particular trial, that mom is not going to jail, because I think I would do worse than go down there with a baseball bat because my child, their life didn't matter. That, all right, well, whatever. I need to shave off 2 minutes on my route. Good luck to you, child. Right? That kid didn't matter. And this is what I'm seeing when we talk about Kenosha. Once again, we had Trayvon Martin, we had Tamir Rice. Tamir Rice was a child. And month after month, week after week, it's someone else, from Sandra Bland to all of these people, Breonna Taylor, all of them. The names just keep coming. And what do we keep saying? Oh, what a shame. And we don't mean it. And I keep seeing progressives in particular. One of whom I love dearly, but she herself just posted yesterday, looting is not the answer, because she happens to live in Kenosha. And her city's on, her little town is on fire. And if you've never been to Kenosha, it's lovely. It sits right on the lake, and there are lots of wonderful things about it. There's also some serious economic hardships. And she posted, looting is not the answer. And my response to her was, if Jacob had been my child, if Jacob was my son, and he had been shot 7 times in the back, my response would be a hell of a lot worse than setting the city on fire. So I asked her, why isn't Jacob your kid? Are you not your brother's keeper? And that is what I want to talk about today. So my aunt, who is now being placed in hospice care because she doesn't matter. Jacob, who obviously doesn't matter, because what we're seeing is the same pattern over and over again, where we've got to go through everything that Jacob Blake had ever done wrong. Every parking ticket, everything he'd ever said, every job he lost, all of it to justify him being shot 7 times in the back. And I don't understand why people are still diminishing what happened. Nowhere in that video that we all saw is it a capital offense. And nowhere in the state, city, or federal constitution does it give officers a right to be judge, jury, and executioner. Ever. Due process is guaranteed by the Constitution. Equal protection is guaranteed by the Constitution. So now I want to focus on all of these militia groups who claim to support the U.S. Constitution and who claim to be bastions of protection against tyranny, and they themselves are now assisting in that tyranny. So they don't believe in equal protection. They don't believe in due process. What they believe in is that they are above the law, and the Kenosha Police Department right now is telling them that's true. So we're going to go through all of that this morning. So before I continue my rant, Andy, do you have anything to add?
Just that, a quick story. When my daughter was born, there's an obvious connection between daughter and mother instantly when the child is born. And it's hard to describe when you're a father. There's this small human being now in your family, and it's difficult to say, okay, well, you feel like the third wheel sometimes off the bat, but then you start to realize that almost instinctively that your role in the family is the protector. And I'm not saying that because I'm male. I'm just saying that because your family is to be now protected against all dangers, right? And I think that the horrible thing that happens is when, as a parent, if you outlive your children, it's almost like in your own mind subconsciously you've failed as a human being, right? That you were supposed to protect this family and you weren't able to. And the reasons could be completely out of your control on any logical sense. But it doesn't matter because you're still here and your child isn't. And I agree with you when they say that on a personal level, if this happens to you and your family, and as an observer of it, you can't, and if this has never happened to you, you can't understand what that family is going through, right? The parents of this poor, unfortunate person that was executed by police is possibly going through it. And the rage and the confusion that would kick in when this happened, and why that matters, right? It's easy to say, oh, it's just another person killed by police. Oh, there's another one. Oh, that's horrible, right? We're trying to relate this on a personal level, and if you actually think about what it would feel like if it happened to you in your family and how you would react, it would take over your life. And I've seen it. I saw a coworker of mine lose his son in a senseless accident on a road. And he was never the same. He was off work for 6 months, right? As a protector, he had felt that he had failed in his primal duty as a father. And that's why this matters so much. And we want people, especially progressives, to try to come to an understanding and relate to this on that level, and how human beings we're all connected. And when this happens, we should all feel the outrage of it.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And this is the point that I want to make, right? And I keep hearing all of this being diminished by, well, people die all the time. That was the argument for COVID. Oh, well, so many people die in the flu. And I'm like, do you not hear what you're saying? Preventable death, needless death, you are justifying that. And when we look at police shootings, how many do we need? These are state-sanctioned executions. And I think Brandon said it best. He's like, I feel like I'm just a sitting duck. I'm just the next target, right? And that is exactly it. So as the parent of a black man, I cannot tell you how terrifying it is. And for all the white people who claim to be allies, put yourselves in their shoes. And I don't know what it's going to take for people to understand this, but every time, not just when they leave the house, they're a target, but Brianna was sitting at home. She was sitting at home. If that doesn't get it for you, I don't know what will. And I feel like we need to start seeing these things and setting aside the discomfort. So that's what we're going to go with today. And as always, we are live. Put in your comments. Tell me where I'm wrong, because this is going to be a really difficult episode for many of you, and I get it, but I need you to see this. And unfortunately, the human condition, we don't learn without discomfort and a little bit of hurt. So we'll guide you through it. Let's start with Kenosha. Here's what's going on in Kenosha. After Jacob Blake was shot, who is now on the road to recovery, his father has said that he does have some partial paralysis, but they're not sure if that's going to be permanent or not. So please, Jacob, our hearts are with you. I am personally sorry that this had to happen to you. I am personally sorry that we did not stand up and stop it. I am personally sorry that as a country, we have let this go on too long because we are telling you that you don't matter, that everyone that looks like you does not matter. And I am sorry. So let's go through what happened here in the overnight hours. What we have on the streets of Kenosha is similar to the things that we have talked about on this program before. We know that the Fraternal Order of Police in Chicago bussed in militia members from the Proud Boys and other alt-right racist groups to protest Kim Foxx here in Chicago. They were vehemently upset and opposed to 3 black women in charge in the city of Chicago. That sent them over the edge. So what did they do? They bussed in these people from Wisconsin. These are the same people who are now on the streets in Kenosha. So there's a tie-in here. And for those of you not familiar with the geography, the northern edge of Illinois is Lake County. Lake County butts up against Wisconsin. It is a 20-30 minute drive on a good day to get from the center of Lake County to Kenosha. So that's going to be important as we go through this morning. So these militia members, who are they? Well, what are they doing? Well, you've seen this same militia, and this one in particular is the 3%. And how do we know this? Because CJTV pulled apart some really great information on members who were openly, this is not hidden, they were openly using social media to contact the Kenosha Police Department. So let me put that up here. So this is Paul Swift, and I'll do a better job of getting the background on this individual, but in the context of this, Paul Swift is, he claims to be the leader of the 3%, and by all accounts, the rest of the 3% militia is absolutely backing him up on that. So 3%, this is the militia that is patrolling the streets with the police in Kenosha. So you can see here, these are his public posts. He's saying, pushing back on lefties. Anybody who doesn't agree with Paul is a lefty. And he says, you lefties just keep pushing. And we see what happens when you, a rabid Wolverine in a corner with an eagle, is whatever the fuck he meant by that. But basically, join or die, I think once was the term. So here he's making an open threat. So how dare you want to have due process and want to have equal protection because you're an American citizen? How dare you? Because Paul said you don't matter. And you should submit to all of the things that are happening to you. Here's the irony. The 3%ers are there organized against what they say is tyranny. They are there against government overreach. But according to Paul, he doesn't mean for everyone, just for people who look like him and believe like him. So then in his second public post, he says, when we take back our country, make sure we show no mercy to these sick individuals. He's talking to you people. He's talking to you conservatives. He's talking to you Democrats. He's talking to you progressives. He calls you a sick individual. And some of these links are already removed. He was talking about links that he was putting on from InfoWars and others. Why we tolerate this from our leaders, I will never understand. He's got a typo. So this is Paul. Paul is leading the 3%ers. When he's talking about what they believe in, he doesn't mean you. He means him, his group, and the people who think like him. And the name 3%ers...
And that's being, you're being, when you say think, you're using that liberally.
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. Because it's all... So the Three Percenters gets their name from the idea that it was 3% of the population that rose up against the British in the war for American independence. So this goes back to their ideology of pushing back on tyranny. They're not. What they're pushing back on is this idea that Paul and others like him are somehow a threatened minority. They are an alt-right racist group. Can an alt-right racist group have black members? Well, ask Diamond and Silk. They were the pink poodles. And for those of you who are fans of Malcolm X, I am using that term purposely. They were the pink poodles of the Trump administration. So we have a number of pink poodles who get trotted out by these groups, shown around, shown off. Look, I have a black friend. I know a black person. Look, I'm not racist. It's bullshit. It is all smoke and mirrors bullshit, because somebody like Paul would be more than happy to turn the muzzle on one of his black associates, because Paul is operating from a place of insecurity and weakness. That is exactly where this comes from. Racism and all the alt-right, these are weak individuals who don't have enough self-centered sense of purpose that they need to tear down and focus on someone else. And this comes to my point about the left and the right. Rather than taking a look at yourself and what you are doing, we point fingers at the other side. So while Paul is an extreme and dangerous example, we're seeing the same thing across the political spectrum. We see the DNC pointing fingers at Trump, but quietly enacting the same neoliberal policies and austerity that the right wants. So you can see this in Biden's push, not just once, not twice, not 3 times, but 4 times to cut Social Security and Medicare.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, right? Like, I mean, just look at the what's happening right now, the pageantry of the DNC and the RNC's conventions, right? Which is how we've got these totally neoliberal spectacles of the elites, you know, basking in their own glory, while the rest of the country is burning.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
Like, nothing to see here. Move along. Oh, yes, we're going to go back to the status quo, right? Where everybody was happy and asleep.
Right. And that is part of why I chose not to. And I'm trying to tune out all the glib, happy memes against the RNC, because I'm so frustrated that the vote blue no matter who folks, the blue MAGA folks, cannot see the reality in front of them. So let's get back to Kenosha, because it gets worse. Okay, so one of the young members of the Three Percenters, his name is Kyle Rittenhouse. Kyle is 17 years old. He's not yet 18. So journalistic integrity would say that we don't report his name or his image. However, we have 14-year-old black kids in jail serving as adults. So, Kyle, fair game. You openly went on the streets of Kenosha and shot citizens. So here's Kyle. This is a picture of Kyle patrolling the streets with the militia. Well, how can this be? How can a 17-year-old be elevated to the level of law enforcement with no training? Kid can't even vote, let alone purchase alcohol, but yet he is going to decide who lives or dies, right? Well, why would I say that? Why would I even begin to say that? So shout out to CJTV, Independent News, and I posted a link, so go and support them. They have done phenomenal work, and I cannot claim credit for any of this. This is their reporting, so shout out to them on this. So here is the video that they posted describing who's working for whom.
Trap this goddamn bullshit business in, I get it. But you left the city open.
Well, do you know what the cops told us today? They were like, we're going to push them down by you because you can deal with them. And then we're going to leave.
See?
And then as soon as they said
The
that...
second the shots fired, I had to tell like 6 people it wasn't fucking you guys.
Yeah. So like we fucking... As soon as they said that bullshit to us, people hurt. Oh, you're hurt. You need to...
So you can see there clearly, there's a militia member who was admitting that Kenosha police were like, we're going to coordinate with you and we're going to push all the Black Lives Matter protesters to you so you can handle it. So they have effectively been illegally deputized to patrol the streets of a city. Are you fucking kidding me? And we're not supposed to be upset? You're going to point the finger at the people who are protesting? Burn that shit to the ground, is what I say. And yeah, absolutely. As a parent, I would. Why people are not in the streets right now demanding equal protection, demanding accountability, I don't understand. And I'm looking at people on the left, particularly the Becky with the latte, the DNC vote blue no matter who. Prove that you are better than the Republican option. Prove it. Don't say it. Don't tell me. Show me. So here's another video.
They can't.
No, they can't. And that's the problem. I feel like we are stuck between a rock and a hard place, to put it mildly. And in the meantime, our sons and daughters are dying. And we're supposed to shut up and be okay about it? Mm-mm. So, yeah, if that first video of the militia member himself wasn't enough to sway you, here's another one from the Kenosha Police Department openly thanking these 3% alt-right militia members for being in Kenosha, for patrolling the streets. So, here it is.
That's what started most of it. Now we're all the way back by the gas station again.
Hey, thank you guys. You need water? Seriously. That's far right. You need water. We'll throw you one.
Thank you. All right, come on, guys. Let's get out of here. Which way should we go?
Okay, we'll bring a couple. Thank you. Yes, you. You are a civilian. This area is closed to them. You're trespassing. Leave. Leave now.
Can you throw one up here? Officer, can you throw one?
We got a couple. We got to save a couple, but we'll give you a couple. We appreciate you guys. We really do.
Thank you. Hey, can we go this way? Can we walk this way? Hold on. I need water. I need a step.
I'm sure they have a lot of bottles of water.
That's all we can spare.
Nice truck,
You're
man.
going to have to get out of there. You're just the last warning. You're going to have to move south or you're going to have to get off this block. This is the last warning. You will disperse.
So the gentleman that you saw walking around the armored vehicle, that was Kyle Rittenhouse. And if you notice that the officer in the armored vehicle threw something to him, it appears to be a tear gas canister. So we're working to get confirmation on that. Kyle is 17. Kyle is a member of the 3%, an alt-right militia group that is not following the law. The Kenosha Police Department is responding to an illegal assassination of a citizen, the protest thereof, by further breaking the law to deputize illegally and informally this militia member and giving him chemical weapons to do so. We're all okay with this? This is fine. So,
It's amazing. It's unbelievable. We're looking at a public that is vilifying the protesters and calling them violent because of looting and damage, right? And we've talked about this over and over again, that it's not violence if you're doing stuff to things.
Right.
Violence occurs when you hurt someone or attempt to maim or kill someone. That is violence. Looting is not violence, okay? So if you can make the logical step, what the militia guys like Kyle are doing illegally as citizens, armed citizens who shot at protesters, that's violence.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, I do have one more video, and this one will be absolutely disturbing, but going back to the beginning of the show, I feel like people don't get it unless they're uncomfortable. And I don't want to go so far as to wish evil on somebody, wish harm, but this is why I'm going to show this video, and it's going to be disturbing for some people, so it's not very long, but this is the video of Kyle, that same individual that you saw walking around the Humvee, same photo that we showed. Kyle went and shot some people between some cars. And then he announced gleefully, "I just shot somebody," and walked away. So CJTV was there and happened to catch when Kyle was coming down the street after having just shot somebody and what he did thereafter. So this is graphic because Kyle went and shot some more people. So let me go ahead and get that one queued up. Again, this is graphic, so they're trigger warning. If you need to turn away, turn off. I get it, but here it is.
Beat him up! Hey, you shot him! Oh shit, he shot that guy in the stomach. Oh shit, shit, people are getting shot all around us. People are just getting shot everywhere, guys. Move! Take this, take this. Take this, motherfucker! I got it. Oh, fuck me. I need a fucking medic! I have a tourniquet on the back. What you got? You have a tourniquet on the back? I have a tourniquet. Where, in your bag? Oh, in your bag? In your bag? Help! Tourniquet now, no.
So, that's your boy Kyle. He is now patrolling the streets with the blessing and cooperation with the Kenosha Police Department, but we're not supposed to be upset. We're not supposed to say anything. We're not supposed to protest. We're not supposed to kneel. We're not supposed to be upset in any way, shape, or form. Don't raise your voice. And go ahead and trot out the cute little memes of Malcolm X, who said that rioting is not okay. Go ahead and trot out the whitewashed history of all of these leaders who seem to say that what you're doing is, we're cattle to a slaughter. And that seems to be okay with everyone. Why the entire police force hasn't been shut down as of this morning and all of them brought up on charges, I do not understand at all. There is no excuse. So here begs the question. How did they get away with this?
Because they're doing the will of the politicians.
Right.
Because that's what the politicians want. Like if you're wondering right now why it is that, we understand that on the right, we're the militia people are the far right, but the right, the Republicans, are okay with what's happening because America, right? We've talked about that before. You have to ask yourself the question, if the Democratic Party, which is supposedly left of the Republicans, is such more of a moral high ground than the Republicans, why are they silent about this? Why is there not outrage in Congress? Why isn't there things that are happening that says this isn't right, instead of just Joe Biden saying, well, we need more police?
Exactly. So in the follow-up to this, and I'm going to tie it all in, when we talk about the politicians, this is not just rhetoric. So I mentioned the geography between Lake County and the border with Wisconsin. In Lake County right now, we saw, so this was the area that was really hard hit with COVID because, you know, nobody was doing anything. The jails, nursing homes, all of this was getting hit very hard. At the same time, you had the Black Lives Matter movement, and right now there are some very serious protests going on about defund the police. And just one word on defund the police, because some of you seem to be confused with what defund the police means. Defund the police means we don't want you engaging in behaviors and activities that you have shown you're willfully inept. You have shown yourself to be irresponsible and a deadly threat to citizens. So we want you to stop doing those things and focus on this very narrow area where you will be held accountable. That's what defund means. Doesn't mean get rid of law enforcement. Doesn't mean that at all. So I hope that clarifies it for some of you who still haven't fucking gotten it straight. Now,
absolutely.
Yeah, so here is where it comes down to the politicians. This is Lake County. This is an alderman who serves currently for the 6th Ward. Here he is. This is Keith Turner. There's his phone number, his email address. You can look him up. So if you'll notice to the side, that is Mr. Turner wearing a t-shirt with the 3%ers logo on it. This came from his personal Facebook page, publicly available. So doing due diligence this morning, I called Alderman Turner and asked him about this photo. He was not happy. He said, and I quote, "I am not part of any 3% and I have no comment on the photo." So when I pressed him further, why would you be wearing a 3%ers t-shirt? No comment. That's your alderman in Lake County. So this was one that we were able to put together. Not all of them put it publicly on their Facebook page, so very proud of being part of a militia group that is undermining and killing people. Mr. Turner, on the other hand, was free to post it. And honestly, I think I would love to see them all. All of them. All of the politicians. Post it. Get it out in the open. Let's see it. But that's what's happening. And again, going back to Chicago, the Fraternal Order of Police, these politicians, they are openly moving back and forth between Wisconsin and Illinois, pulling in these racist groups. We've already seen in Chicago where the Proud Boys and the 3%ers and identified white supremacists were bussed in for protests. Now we have the reverse going on in Kenosha, and in Waukegan, in Lake County, you're about to see the same powder keg. And I need to remind folks that protest is under the First Amendment. And if 10 of us are doing well and one of us decides to spray graffiti on a courthouse, you still cannot shut down that protest. That is the heckler's veto. It's in the First Amendment. Go and read it. So for all of these militia groups that pretend to uphold the law, pretend to love the Constitution, they have never actually read it. And they are out there with live ammo killing people because they themselves feel such an utter weakness and inferiority that they have to.
Let's not listen to what they say today and tomorrow. Let's watch what they do. Let's see how they handle this issue with Kyle very closely, because it's going to be very telling. If they respond, because obviously this was not hidden, it may have, it was out in the open. Clearly, the police and the militia think that, they can get away with this because they have the backing of the racist in chief. We have to watch. And if this turns into a let's protect Kyle because he's doing a good job, then that's your trigger.
Oh, absolutely. And it's not just Kyle. Who was the officer who tossed him chemical weapons to use against citizens? Who were the officers who said, hey, we really appreciate you being here? Who were the officers who said, we're going to push protesters down to you because we know that you'll handle it? Meaning, we know that you'll fucking shoot them. Who are those officers? So you're right, Andy. I'm not going to listen to anything that any politician, any political organization does. Any person in local civics, pay attention to what they do. That's ideally, right? So painting Black Lives Matter on a street, changing a street name, thoughts and prayers, we're done. That is absolutely performative. It is not substantial. And at any point, just like with the COVID situation, COVID is the equivalent of 50 passenger liner jets crashing every month. Do you think it would take more than one? Do you think it would take more than two? No, we have 50 before people took it seriously. And now what we're having is, do you remember, Andy, you're old enough to remember the Tylenol scare?
Oh, yeah.
How many of that take two deaths? How many unarmed people have died so far in this year? I think the last time I looked it up 2 weeks ago, it was over 1,000. Unarmed people died in police custody or were shot in the back, like Jacob.
Well, the one incident that changed time in the United States forever, right, was in 2001, the bombing of the Twin Towers, right? Less than 3,000 people died, right? We're now looking at a serious, within the next few weeks, of being 200,000 deaths due to COVID in the United States.
Right. And we talked about the economics of that too, where the rent and mortgage moratorium, gone. People are being evicted because they can't pay their water bill. People are having food insecurity. They're starving. They can't get the internet connection they need to get their kids online. They don't have the right PCs and equipment. Some school systems are having parents buy the equipment, the iPads and other things, on top of they can't pay rent and all these other things. And oh, by the way, if you need health care, we're just going to give you maybe a public option, Medicaid, that will let you buy that policy because we're going to cater to our donor class, the insurance companies, and screw you. So what did you think was going to happen? What did you think people were going to do? Just sit there and take it? Sit there and be, as Brandon said, wait for my turn to die? Wait for my turn to be a hashtag that nobody will remember? What did you think was going to happen? And we saw it from the DNC convention where the DNC members voted out their own people to decide on how things work. Voted out policy from a stupid platform that they didn't even pay attention to in 2016. But I'm supposed to be excited? I'm not. I'm absolutely not. And for the Vote Blue No Matter Who people, prove it. Do something. Do something meaningful. Get your ass out there and do something. At this point, I feel like we have the ultra-fascist right-wing party of the Republican Party. Everybody's totally okay with everything that's going on, totally okay with genocide. And then the Democrats who just don't want it out in the open, right? And I'm supposed to believe that we can push Biden and Kamala. And I really want to. I mean, I love the people who still believe it. But in my heart, I feel like, how am I going to be able to pick them up off the ground when they find out, just like I have with my own congressman, that there is no pushing them to the left?
No, of course not. There's no way. Joe Biden has shown his cards for the last 40 to 50 years as a politician. He's only going to choose someone who is like him, right? Let's understand that the only place that these politicians will be pushed will be by people that run corporations.
Yeah,
they don't give a shit about people. Right. They don't care. It doesn't make profits for the 1%. Right. That's the only thing that matters to the establishment neoliberal centrist politicians. Who can make money off of this is the only way, the only thing that determines what their course of action is going to be in everything. Right. When the pandemic first started, they were scared to death about what that meant until they realized that black and brown people were going to be affected in the majority by this. And then suddenly they didn't fucking care.
No, they didn't care. And honestly, I keep harping on Lake County because I did a big study on ethylene oxide. And at the time, ethylene oxide was the biggest cover-up in Illinois state history, and the number of brown and black people that were being killed, that were dying. And what happened? They reelected those same politicians.
One other thing I'd like to mention is we all remember, if you're on the left, you've seen the video that was posted by Kimberly Jones that we actually included in one of our videos, and an absolutely epic rant by her, an amazing activist and someone that needs our support. And she's the one that said, why should I care about the Hall of Fame or the local Target, right? And the final line in her rant was, and consider yourselves lucky, and I'm paraphrasing, but consider yourself lucky that what black people want is equality and not revenge. How much longer are we going to be able to say that?
Oh, that's absolutely right. And like I said, as a parent of a black man, I know that I would have some serious issues. I know that I would have, we'll leave it at that. But, so I want to just leave this thought with progressives. If after watching all of this, you are still tempted to post something about looting is not the answer, and that you should just take it and wait for your turn to die, I'm going to ask you to sit with this a little bit and meditate on your role in allowing this to happen. Because you are prioritizing property over people. And that is how the profit mongers stay in power.
And as we've talked about before, the reason for that goes back 400 years when slave owners tried to declare their people property so that they could keep them. And as property, they were trying to keep slavery intact because they didn't want to lose. So the entire idea of property having more rights than people gets its roots from slavery 400 years ago.
Yeah.
And if you're advocating for federal buildings or the local McDonald's or Wendy's or whatever it is over protesters, you're playing into the hands of why that was important 400 years ago. Mm-hmm. You can't call yourself a progressive. If you can't make that step, then you're an ally of the alt-right militia that are combing the streets of the American cities right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So on that note, I think we've given you plenty to digest. And you know what? Pushback. Where are we wrong? Where should we simmer down? Where should we temper our message? Where should we fall in line? I invite your comments here. So with that, I'm done, Andy. I'm I'm so done. So any last words before we get out?
No. I hope that you can take what we've said to heart, because what we need on the left is a direction that we can all travel in. And we know that if you've come to this spot and call yourself a progressive, it's because you have the ability to see through the fog, through the smog of the bullshit that's happening right now. We just need you to come a little bit further and understand that the only time that we can create a just economy and a just society is together and through empathy and morality, and get rid of the bullshit that currently permeates the political system in the U.S. and throughout the world.
Mm-hmm. Very well said. So again, shout out to CJTV. Go and support them, and we thank you for making that video available. Tremendous work. For everyone else, we will be back here on Friday, and I hope to God we have some good news coming out of Kenosha and other places. So shout out to Jacob Blake and his family and everyone else who is suffering through this. Every parent of every black child, every parent of every brown child. My heart's with you. I feel it. So with that, I'm going to get out of here. So see you on Friday.
With the dog, we bout that, ayy. We in the zone, we out here, yeah. Spitting the facts, how it's supposed to be. Hair with the dog, we keep it in G. Whoa.